All right, we're live. Yay. Hey, happy Tuesday morning. Thank you for joining us for Conscious Conversations with Loree and Paula. And I would love to hand it over to Loree. Loree, what's going on for you today? Introduce yourself for those that don't know you. And gosh, it feels like I missed last week. So it feels like a year since I've seen you because so much has gone on. And yeah, wow. Can't wait to hear.
I love that sensation, right? That a day can feel like a lifetime. A week can feel like an eternity of amazingness and bliss. Yeah. You know that old saying where, it feels like an eternity. Well, now we're excited by that. So that used to be like this place of, it takes forever. And now we're like, an eternity just happened. So good. Right? So good. Let's go on. Okay, I'm Loree Cowling, and I am in the conversations of consciousness. Every conversation that I'm having, every space that I desire to be in allows me to share consciousness and awareness from a point of view of how do you talk into love? How do you move into light? How do you feel your soul in the expression of the essence that you're meant to be? How do you know when you're moving towards all that you've ever known you're supposed to be? And I love that we're in these conversations. I love that we're in a conscious conversation call. I love that conversations are, that word is not coming out right in my mind. Chit chat. I love that chit chat is showing up in such a way these days that is propelling people into a love light of who they are. Just that. And I can be in that in any way, any day. That's where I want to be. That's what I want to be doing. And so happy to be doing it with you, Paula.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be doing this with you too. So quickly, for those of you who don't know me, my name is Paula Hopwood, and I'm on a journey to experience myself and experience love through expression and conversation and passion and joy. And what I do in the world for others is I help them to leave behind what the world has taught them and to embrace their truth. And the cool thing is I'm doing this, right? So I'm doing this every day in every way. And, we started off the call like, I missed you, Loree. I missed everyone last week. And I was on quite a journey myself. And it's constant evolution, what we're going through right now. Challenging all of our beliefs, everything we've ever been taught, right? All of our old programmings, fear-based, time, you name it. How should we be? How should we act? When really what we really just are is we are. We are just here experiencing. And it's not just experiencing. I'd like to remove that word from my vocabulary. We'll give it a shamanic spit there and get that out of my vocabulary. That's old programming. Hey, because that's limiting, right? Because we are experience. We are love. We're not just experiencing or just love or just Paula. I remember years ago when I quit calling myself, it's just Paula. You know how you leave a phone message? It's just Paula. No, it's Paula.
It's Paula.
Damn right, it's Paula.
And you better call me back because life is great.
If you want to experience some love and joy, right?
Oh my gosh, I love seeing the smudge come across. I don't know if other people can see it, but I love how it comes across in front of you sometimes when we're on this call.
It's smudging my potty mouth.
Why? But why? It's such a great space to be. I don't know what you're talking about. Oh my gosh, I was doing a talk yesterday. I was doing a 60-minute talk, and I have to tell you, there was so often that I wanted to throw in a little potty mouth kind of verbiage. And thank goodness I have conscious awareness while I'm talking about what I'm talking about, because I was like, Right? So much pulling back that potty mouth.
It's interesting that years ago, you wouldn't have heard a swear word out of my mouth at all, right? But I was so shut in and shut down and so programmed that was all bad. Everything was bad, and I was a bad person if I did that. Then I kind of went the other way.
Yep.
But I don't swear in front of certain crowds, right? I don't look at it as a lack of control. So
I love that. And this really speaks to the topic that we want to talk about today. I love what you just said. We swing, right? We go from this place of being so controlled that we can't even express a word because we're told what it means and what it represents and what it represents about who we are, to this place of, I'm going to say whatever the heck I want, to this place of, I'm okay with what I say. I'm okay with having awareness that makes somebody else uncomfortable and I don't need to say it. I'm okay because it doesn't represent what it represented. So today, we really want to talk about how fear can perpetuate you into a higher consciousness. Because we really think that there's this place, Paula, where when we start out in awakening, and I loved a post you shared this morning from, I believe it was John O'Donohue, on, what happens when you start to awaken. And he was one of my favorite authors. He's one of his book, oh my gosh, Anakaram, right? Anakaram was one that actually came into my space when I first started on my awakening. So I adore him as an author. And the post that you shared was about how as you begin to awaken, you can no longer be pulled too far back into what you used to be. When we start out, we convince ourselves that what we're understanding and what we know in this energy of fear, we're meant to talk about it there. When something comes up that causes us fear, we're meant to stay there. And the more we talk about it, somehow that's going to change what's going on. And, what we actually see is that the fear that shows up, this place of what's going on in front of me isn't right and I'm afraid, actually becomes a catalyst into a consciousness of loving evolution. I know you were on a march this weekend, and I just this morning read Deirdre's post about the steps of moving, why she would march, from going from I'm not gonna, why do people march, to I get it. And I really loved that, because I think that's explains kind of what we're talking about, is that allowing yourself to know that there's a catalyst behind the thing that you're feeling and seeing that feels like fear. And you get to choose. I'm going to stay there. I'm going to dig in. I'm going to spiral down. Or I'm going to say, here's this thing causing me this discomfort. Who do I talk to that's going to spiral me up? And then I can actually effectively create change, create awareness. Because it doesn't come in the fear. It doesn't come in the anger. No. It doesn't come in the activism, which is born of emotion. It comes in the advocacy of awareness and care and compassion and kindness. Yeah.
It's interesting. I did a quick live video this morning on living your passion and your joy. And I talked about how we hold back, right? And we hold back from fear. We hold back whatever we're telling ourselves. We're not smart enough. We're not good enough. Somebody else said it. Somebody else did it, right? But that first initial burst, right? That first initial, that's what I want. That excitement, that experience. That's us. That's our truth, right? Before we shut it down from fear. And I love that fear is a catalyst, because when I was leaving my abusive lifestyle behind years ago, and still I use this, when I would feel the fear, I would realize that it was trying to stop me. It was trying to hold me back. So I would have that first burst of interest or whatever, and I would be interested in something, and then the fear would shut me down. And then I would realize what I want is on the other side of fear. And so I would use it kind of like a sling and go, whew, and just like really go through it, right? And then have that experience on the other side of who I really am, even for using the protest as an example. I had no fear about being in the protest. I had no fear at all. But I had, let's say, fear's cousins.
I love that. I love that. Yeah.
I had fear's first cousin of concern. And fear's other first cousin of trepidation. And fear's other cousin, what would I call this one? I don't know. This is going to sound so funny. It was hot. I'm not from Vancouver, so the humidity was getting to me. And I actually, when the heat and the pavement and everything started to hit me, all of a sudden I had this weird program run through my head that I was too old to do this. What are you doing, Paula? You're too old to do this. Ooh. And I'm like, what? I'm like, you obviously don't know me, fear's first cousin that I can't even put a label on. You see, because fear doesn't always show up as we think it will, right? No. It can have these little offshoots, right? And to be aware of that. And then it was so funny when it came in, because I was like, wow, that's not even me, right? So that's old programming, and we're just going to let that go. The concern that I had was, what if it got out of control? What if, there was fights and stuff? Because there was some people walking down the sidewalk saying not nice things and using hand gestures and stuff, right? But the truth of the matter was we were surrounded by not RCP, probably city cops. We were surrounded by police officers on bikes, and they were doing a fantastic job with crowd control, with keeping people back, keeping the traffic back. I don't even know how many there was. There was like 3 or 4 out front, a few on the sides, and 3 or 4 out behind. So that fear's first cousin of concern was unfounded, right? Not to mention, I walk in safety. I walk that my light is so bright that I spread light and joy wherever I go, and that's what I attract, right? So while there was that yuckiness on the side and stuff, it really wasn't about me. Therefore, I don't need to take it into my sphere of influence, right? So I kicked fear's first cousin of concern off to the side, right?
Right out. Get out. You're the cousin that's causing all the trouble.
Yeah. Isn't that the way though? Like those sneaky things, like our programming, it's okay if it's like right in your face, right? Like we can get it usually. But it's those little sneaky first cousins and second cousins, of fear or of what's trying to stop us that come in. And so at the end of the day, I had not even at the end of the day, during it, I had an amazing experience, joined together by souls that I know I've walked with before, and on many lifetimes. Like it brought people together that were just amazing, right? And I just am so blessed. I'm still taking it all in, and I'm still so blessed by that experience. And if I would have held back, I wouldn't have had that experience. Not to mention, I was there to give a voice to the voiceless. The protest was for child sex trafficking. And this has been a part of my first awareness was at 5 years old of this. And so I've had a lifetime of this, and I have been giving a voice for a while, and I hope to give a even bigger voice. This is my plan, right? Yeah. So, it's I was there to give a voice to the voiceless, and I raised my voice and I spoke, and yes, I chanted and cheered and stuff, but I also got up on the mic. There was a crowd there that listened, that got educated, and it's bringing awareness, right? And if I wouldn't have gone through layers of fear that I've released in my life, as well as fear's first cousin, second cousin, third cousin, it wouldn't have happened, right? So that's how important it is to move through that.
I saw one of your Facebook lives, and when you were talking about your first experience with trafficking at 5, and it's so interesting because many women, many men have, many of us, all of us, right? So many of us have experiences with these frequencies of harm in our lives. And it's like this place of, if you haven't, if you're not in the like throes of it and you're not in the depths of it, you dismiss those moments that you had. And your video was really impactful for a lot of people. I saw some of the comments, and it reminded me of the first time I felt like I had no control over my body, and I was 5, and I can see those times ignite over my life, right? And it's such a powerful thing when somebody stands in a place, like you said, of you've moved through the biggest moments of fear that had you in the frequency of almost being taken several times, right? You were in these experiences in your life that were in this frequency. You were with these people in this thing. But you had a purpose and a calling over here. And even as a child, you heard it, and you knew that there was something over here calling, and you called in the right way somebody that could prevent you going into this. Because now you get to hold a voice. Like you said, I've heard you over the last little while powerfully wanting to hold a voice for the voiceless. And I'm so grateful we're having this conversation. And I'm so grateful you did the march. And I'm so grateful that, you shared on Facebook Live. And you shared in that energy of love and compassion and awareness for, there are these things that happen in our world. And you fought your own battles out of the fear, out of the frequency of pain. So now you're a beacon, right? And you're standing in this beautiful place as not only a beacon for the voiceless, but a beacon for those that want to speak about this and don't know how. For those that have experienced on the peripheral of it and don't want to see. And those that have never experienced this and have convinced themselves that it doesn't exist. And because you're standing in such this light of recognizing the first cousin of fear right away and consciously moving through it, you get to be a beacon for all of that. It's like I've talked often, and I talked this weekend about the bungee cord of life and where you're anchored. And right now you are anchored in such a place that the voiceless get to see you and come towards you. And those with a voice, but have been told that they're not allowed to look, get to open up and see you and come towards you. And I believe this is what happens when we use fear as a catalyst into consciousness, instead of a catalyst into choosing not to see what's there, right? I'm in these interesting conversations right now with people who continue to choose to spiral into fear and all its cousins and go play there. And there's those that are doing it that don't realize they're doing it. But once you know what your triggers are, once you know what your clues are, once you know what it feels like into the consciousness of awareness, and you choose the opposite, you're clearly setting out to the universe that you're not interested in connecting into the oneness that we all are. And that's okay. But the world is moving towards the oneness. The world is moving to awareness of each other and our interconnectedness and our compassion and our we're just moving towards that. When you have an awareness that that is real and exists, and you continue to choose the opposite, and you convince yourself it's not harmful, it's going to be very uncomfortable for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we use the example in my life of the protest, right? And I actually wasn't at a protest. I have to come forward. I was at an awareness.
Love it.
That's what I was there. I was not there to protest. I was there to bring awareness. And a lot of the people I was there with, that's what they were there for. That's what happened. When I spoke up at the mic, I spoke about coming at it from a place of love and not anger and hatred, right? Because if we keep coming from a place of anger and hatred and fear, that's what we're always going to get. So to come from a place of love. And so it's just that shift in awareness, right? When we step out of that fear, when we quit agreeing with that fear and all its cousins, you know, anything that makes us feel yucky. I mean, let's just put it simply.
Yeah.
If it makes you feel yucky, then it's not right for you.
Yeah. If it feels yucky, stop doing it. Stop. Yeah. Like, get it, right? Oh,
I'm a mother of 4. I just speak real plain. If it feels gross, don't do it, right? But you can shift it, you know? So, and that's the thing, like even the wording I just used, it's called a protest, you know, the march that I was on, but I wasn't at a protest. I was at an awareness. We were bringing awareness, right? And so, you know, you look at other ones, you know, other ones that have been around for years, I've seen protests and stuff, and they turn into big fights. They turn into, you know, fire bombs being thrown and all sorts of things. That's because they are protesting. That's because they are fighting. They're coming from a place of anger, right? But in order to solve things in our own life, and therefore it trickles out into the world and solve things. And if you want love in your life, you've got to come from a place of love, right? No more fear, no more dancing with that fear anymore. No more holding back. Go to that first place within you where you feel it, whatever it is in you, whatever it is that you're trying to do, and you feel that first interest, that first nudging, because that's pure, that's you, right? It doesn't come from a place of anger. It comes from a place of love, and get back to that source and come from there, right? Come at a different angle.
So beautiful. I can feel it, right? And I adore what you just said. You were at an awareness. You were at an awakening. You were and you were surrounded by people that were doing the same thing. And how incredible that is to stand beside those that are in protest. Because protest is that place where you don't know how to see from love. You don't know what to do, but you just know you got to fight something, and it's a step. And it's a step. But what's happening in our world right now is so many more of us have moved past that step into a further step along into what you just said. You were in an awareness. And when you come into the awareness of an experience that is happening in our world that is hurting people and harming the innocents that aren't able to speak or stop it. When you come from awareness, you create a bigger ripple. When you come from protest, you create a shutting down and a limiting. Because what it does is it pokes in other people their fear of being harmed in speaking. Right? If speaking what you know in your heart is going to hurt you and you're going to be harmed, you don't want to speak. So how exceptionally amazing this example is for people to understand that fear is the catalyst into consciousness. Fear is the catalyst it's one of the catalysts into consciousness. Yeah. And like you said, that initial thing where you go, this is a place for me. We're gonna go through the wobble of not knowing what to do. You've been I remember you saying a little while ago, this particular conversation, you tapped into years ago that you were going to be in this conversation in a greater way.
Mm-hmm.
And along the way, I'm sure things have come up where, oh, I could go be in this, or, oh, I could do this, or, oh, I could give money here, or I could, and things have come up, but they haven't been in that right spot.
Mm-hmm.
And then this weekend, you found yourself, because I don't think you went there on purpose to do the march, did you?
No, I was just going to join in a march in whatever city I was near.
Nice.
So it was a personal and business trip.
Right.
But, and definitely a soul enhancing trip.
Soul enhancing. Let's go there for a bit, because I think people understand what we're talking about. I think that if we go too long in this, it's actually going to people are going to be, it's too much. So let's talk about the soul enhancing things that have happened over the last week. I know that for me, I've talked a bit in the last while about the Lionsgate energy and how this year I went full in intention of allowing it to transform my awareness. This week, oh my gosh, just whoa, so much. So talk to me about some of those soul transforming experiences that you've had this week.
Okay, pushing aside that what happens in Vancouver stays in Vancouver.
Let's not talk about the things that are meant just for you. Let's talk about the transformations that you can share.
So here's a cool thing. So all these energies are hitting all of us, right? And this evolutionary time is all of us, myself included. And I went through a massive thing this week. But not only that, and speaking with you briefly, speaking with clients, we've all experienced this week, and I'm so excited about it. There has been a massive shift this week in releasing old wounded masculine ways, thoughts, on a massive scale. We've been doing this for a while, but it was like this big wave thing coming this week, right? And so we've all been having experiences, myself included, where that divinity has been coming through, that masculine has been coming through, realizations. Again, I love we'll relate to the cousins there of fear. So the cousins of the woundedness within us, right? Those little pieces and stuff. And I was down at the river with my friend Deidre, and we were we'd done cold plunging and purified ourselves. We were doing ceremony, and all of a sudden people started showing up. And then there was a group of young men, and we're literally there, off on the side doing this ceremony, got our crystals out. We're eyes are closed. We're doing this ceremony, and these guys come up and they start talking to us and interrupting and running all around, right? We had the choice to either get mad or accept them for who they are and what they're showing up in our lives as. And we realized that these young men that were there, they just didn't see what we were doing, right? They just couldn't see. They weren't on that level. And they represented people in our life that come in and try and distract us, or maybe projects, right? That come in and try and distract us from what we're really there to do. And do we want that in our life, right? Have we allowed that? The old programming in us says to, how do I put it? Be nice, and not that we were mean, but but to be nice and put up with this. And we had the choice of what we wanted to do with that, right? We could have gotten mad. We could have stomped away, and stuff. We chose to finish our ceremony, and then we didn't thank them physically, but we thanked them energetically for showing up and showing us different parts of our own lives and stuff that had happened, realizing what that opportunity was, and then moving forward from there. And so we closed up ceremony, and we left, and we continued in another area. And it was really, really cool, because old programming also says, oh, we got to leave because of them, right? No, that's wounded, right?
Yeah.
That's wounded. And so it was a real example for that. There were so many examples through the week as I moved through releasing old wounds, more subtle wounds, maybe not so in my face, moving into divine masculine, being given the opportunity and to see how I've been distracted, moving through that because I create my reality, right? And then even moving into celebration and having that passion and joy in my life that like unleash it big time on the world, in my world, right? Is then I'm experiencing it. With that, even that saying unleash it on the world kind of separates it from me. But what I'm saying is I stepped into it and I was really living it. And it was just a beautiful thing. And what I've heard from other people is you're right, the Lionsgate opened all of this because it was all about releasing old wounds, right? It was all about that stepping forward. And it just has happened in such a big way, such a big way. And if you look at it, when we were talking earlier about fear being a catalyst, if I wouldn't have learned those fear lessons before, I wouldn't have been aware and awake to experience all this. So I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful for that catalyst of change, right? And even throughout the week, things I was releasing, it would be, I'd like want to hang on to them, right? Bits and pieces of the way that I was, or something like old programming. That's not me. Did you hear what I said? Old programming, not stepping forward, not new programming. I don't even want programming, not who my truth is, right? It's old programming, old ways that we know have to die, not only die, but let them loose, put them in the river, let them float downstream, right? Because they're not a part of us anymore. We're new creations. Every day we wake up and we're a new creation. We get to create our day. We get to create who we are. We have that opportunity every minute, every breath we take to create our life. And I knew this concept before when I was leaving my old abusive lifestyle behind, but it is now more than ever. Every breath I take, every word that comes out of my mouth, I'm creating. Just like before when I said just, right? I'm not just Paula. I'm not just anything. I have that opportunity to create with my words and my thoughts and my heart, my signature, right? That energy. So yeah, it was a big week, and I know it was a big week for everyone. So what went down for you this week, Loree? Because I know I feel it.
I'm just leaning in, like how fun we always talk about this leaning in. And on the call last week, I was, so full of like joy to be. There was 3 other people in the call, and I could feel when they all leaned in, right? And I talked about it. I've been leaning in since the first moment today. That's what I feel like every moment right now. It just really, the last few days, it has like just this crescendo of expansion, and I'm leaning into every moment. And like what you were saying, right? Every breath I take. Isn't that a song? Every move I make. Right? The song?
I'll be watching you.
Right? I'm these days. Okay, I'm going to share a little bit, but I just wanted to there's a couple of comments on Facebook that I know aren't showing up here. So I just wanted to acknowledge them. And Sherry talked about encouraging everyone to feel free to speak, feel free to live, feel free to love. Thank you, Paula, for being a beacon. Yeah, I agree. And, Kendra said, fear of being seen and heard for sure, or putting others ahead of myself, which is in reality is me holding myself back. And I can truly identify with those things. When I was young, I was very much told to be seen and not heard. That was actually a paradigm that was a constant programming for me, is to be seen and not heard, and to make sure that other people are not uncomfortable, which is a lot of pressure, a lot of pressure. So that's something that has really changed and shifted over the last little while. And I want to talk about the river. I want to talk about the river right now. You talked about being at the river doing ceremony. And I had a really, over the last few weeks, you've known I have been having some, growth with my daughter. And last week I had a really intense experience with her that identified those abusive threads that have been through my generation, my lineage, my life, her life, my mother, my grandmother, that kind of thing. And I have not been at the river doing ceremony in a really long time. I have not channeled in a really long time. And I've been really being called, a few years ago, like after my accident, I clearly heard, and this is those places of guidance that are so profound you can't ignore. I heard this guidance that I was to do a meditation in my home once a week. And I did that every week for a year. And at the time, I never believed in myself that I had that kind of commitment towards something, but the guidance was so strong. And I had been, by the end of it, channeling in energy the great central sun. And then something happened and I stopped. And now what I understand is I stopped for a while because there were some other things I needed to learn. And I couldn't do it in that space. And through this Lionsgate energy, I have been called to do this again. I've been called to fully embrace everything and integrate everything. And this weekend, I went to the river on Friday. I went up to Sheep River Falls, actually.
Oh, nice.
It was really, I took a friend with me who has never experienced ceremony by a river. And I took my rattle and I channeled, and I went into myself, and I went beyond myself. And I was sitting there, with the river, and I was beside the river and feeling the flow beside me. And it was so interesting. She was positioned in such a way that the mountains were in front of her and the river was coming down towards her heart.
Oh, nice.
It was so beautiful. Yeah, it was so nice. And I was like, oh yeah. And you and I have been talking lots about the river and how it represents the feminine flow.
Mm-hmm.
And so it was so powerful and interesting to me that I was in ceremony beside the river. And you're talking about being beside the river this week. And yesterday I spent the day with another friend of mine who was beside and in the river all weekend. And yesterday we went to a spot by the river here by where I live. And I had this realization. My daughter and I used to go to the river every night, starting in spring and going right through until snow. And this year, we haven't done that. And our ability to move through the muck and the stuff has been much harder. So we went to this spot by the river, and usually at that spot, there's two channels open. And there's this one channel where it's like this stream with a little bit of like bumpiness, and you can lay in it and clear out. And then there's this place where it's about this deep, and you can walk all the way across to the deeper channel. And then in the deeper channel is where the like more intense flow is. And all of that was not flowing. There was no like big stream. There was just a pool that was closed off. There was no stream there. There was no place to walk. But when you got to the channel that was usually very intensely flowing, it was low enough and lovely enough that there was this gentleness to the flow. And it was very powerful for me to recognize that there are times when we need all of those channels. There's times when we need all of that different kind of flow. There's times when that river, that spot is so wide. But right now, that flow has become gentle. It's become back in the place where it's meant to be. It's uninterrupted. It's not distracted. It's not off in a different direction. It was really this powerful space for myself that I'm coming into the essence of me, and I'm in the flow of who I've always been. And the beauty of all of these different channels of me is fantastic. And in this moment, in this space, in this time, right now, in this world, the way the world is, I'm in the flow of me. And I'm feeling that from so many people right now. They're ready to be in the flow of them. And they just so cute. They're ready to be in the flow of them. And all we need to do is take one step out of that multiple channels of distraction, one step towards you, one step. And all of a sudden that stuff behind you is so gone. You can't even access it. You can't even see it. It's not there anymore. And I don't know. I just am so in awe right now of how beautifully, how powerfully, how lovely, how amazingly so many people and souls are saying, I wish to be in the awareness of awakening. I wish to be in the awareness of me, connected to you, seeing me through how you see me, seeing myself in you and you in me. And it's so magnified right now. It is no longer just one person in a country like that you have to fly 14 hours to be with a shaman on a mountain. Yeah. Right? There's so many of us. It's just, that's the magnificence. And I love how many of my interconnected spaces are in ceremony around the river these days.
I love that because, we talk a lot about rivers, and I use rivers a lot in my healings, meditations, restorations, journeys, right? I live atop a river, actually.
In fact, Paula, the friend I was with yesterday, I was saying, I just feel like I want to get in the river. I want to do like the cold water cleansing, right? The cleansing that you were talking about. Plunging, I think you called it. Yeah. And she goes, oh, Loree, we need to go to Lumbrick Falls.
Yeah.
And I was, well, yes, we do, because that's where Paula lives. And I think that would be lovely.
That would be lovely. I'll show you some spots. But I was gonna share. So the whole week of that, for me, it was releasing woundedness, stepping into my power, but the way that ebbs and flows, right? Like a tide and like a current pulling me. And it's interesting. And I had noticed this before, and I want to share it with you all. I want to share my journey with you, because how it started with water, because water's big. And I encourage you, like, if you can get around water, get around water. And if you can't, get in the shower, right? I always tell people, get in the shower. It is actually a waterfall in your house, right? And you can use it in that way, right? So, I just got shivers. I'm leaning in on myself now.
That's so good.
So the way my week started was I spent the first day with my soul brother, a man who is very much my brother. And he took me out to the ocean. And we walked out. The tide was coming back in. We walked out as far as we could, and we drummed and we released. And it was so beautiful. And the message I got out there in the ocean was to be out there, to let it all go. But it's time for me to rise, right? The tide was coming in. It's time for me to rise. And it was so beautiful. And that message vibrated through me for a few days. Okay. So then the water lessons started to build. And so the next water was a good divine masculine friend of mine took me to his favorite lake.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. And it was gorgeous. And the message was to be still. Just to be still and enjoy the moment, and just be me, just enjoy the moment. And this whole masculine journey of releasing the wounds and being poured into by these men in my life, right? And by these people that were around me. So rise and then just be still and be me. It's okay, Paula. It's okay, right? Just experience it. Then I went back to the ocean. So that same guy took me back to the ocean, and we had an ocean experience, and it was so beautiful because it was expansive, right? it was okay. It's just to expand and take it all in and expand my energy out. It was so incredible. So then the next experience with Deidre in the river. And I had already spoken about that. And what we did was we cold plunged, we cleansed ourselves. We let our stuff go down the river. We let it shake loose off of us. We let it go down the river. We had an experience beside the river with the energy moving, right? And then it was back in the ocean, back in the ocean for celebration. And it was like I sent my energy out. And if actually my current cover picture is of where we were that night on the ocean. And you can see the city off in the distance and how beautiful it is and how the energy is just expanding. And my heart opened up huge this week. And those of you that know me, you already know, like I've been on quite a heart opening journey, right? And maybe you can feel me, but this was so big that human words can't describe it and human heart can't contain it, right? This was like a cosmic heart opening. It was massive. Oh, and I just yanked my earplugs out, my earbuds.
So massive that we can't.
So massive, yank. But it was just so incredible. Now, yes, I was beside physical bodies and in physical bodies of water, but the whole journey shows us what we could do, and we have the power to do it in our minds, right? So, like when I tell people, I take a bath, and all of a sudden I'm in the ocean in Cuba, or I'm in the ocean in the Pacific, or all the ocean waters, I bring them together. I take a shower, and I'm in a beautiful mountain waterfall that's not, glacier, right?
It's warm,
but it's
warm.
Yeah, water. We are made of water, right? And so water moves us. Water releases stuff in us. Water was a big part of my journey this week of flowing, and flowing with that, those different types of divine masculines that are in my life and within me too, right? Rising up that masculine energy within me and that feminine energy within me and honoring it at every step of the way. And it was such an incredible experience. And I got to share it with people that I love. And even the people that weren't there with me at the ocean and the river and stuff, I still got to experience, because I was on that vibe. And so I got to experience it with them, right? As I saw them after or whenever, and seeing you now, Loree, right? Get to experience that together. I love that. For me, it's all about the flow. And you said in flow of me. And that's exactly it. You see, because as we flow with ourselves and we allow ourselves to flow, then we can flow that out into our world, into our family, into our friends, and they flow with us. And it just creates this great big higher vibrational of love. And I'm just in awe of that. I'm in awe of that, and I'm leaning in right now.
Me too.
And so happy for it.
It's such an incredible space to be in connection this way, that allows us to continue to flow back and forth in this. A few weeks ago, we were talking in a whole different space and a whole different awareness, yet we knew we were moving towards this. So, so interesting. I don't know if you guys can see this on the Facebook. Paula, you're totally like, your screen froze and you're just like frozen in this love. I'm just like, I hope we have this screenshot forever, because you are just, can everybody see this? Paula just said, I got kicked out. Guess I'm breathing in too deep. Now you just like sent so much love into the world that we're all just in awe. So I'm sure Paula's going to come back in, and it's the leaning in, right? It's this place where we're leaning in right now. We're all leaning in, and I adore the sensation that's being created, no matter where we are in our awareness of ourself. People are leaning into you, leaning into the essence of you, leaning into All that you're meant to be, all that you're meant to experience. Carol says frozen in love. That she is. She is frozen in love. It feels so interesting right now because I can feel Paula as if she's like right here with me. And, you know, I'm still in conversation with her, even though I can't see her. I want to talk about, for me, what has been happening in this expression Paula was talking about the divine masculine and her awareness of herself in that divine masculine connected to the flow of the feminine. And I was in Kelowna a couple of weeks ago, so I had to drive through the mountains. There you are. I was so like, you froze in this moment of like divine love. And I've been trying to figure out even how to speak. And I can't. I'm like, I just try and even figure out how to have a conversation without the you-ness.
Oh. I don't know what happened, but maybe I breathed in too deep. But and I was definitely frozen in love. Carol Ann says frozen in love.
Yeah, it was so good. I was saying that when you go back and see the screenshot, you're in this like this forward love energy. So
yeah, you know, I think my computer overheated. Actually, I had to unplug it. So. I was talking about my masculine journey from this week, and it just got overheated.
Fair enough. Oh my gosh, I get it. And you know, we were talking earlier, you and I, about time and how we're in two places at once. You just like projected yourself like to a whole dimensional awareness.
So that's the guy I was with on Monday, David, my brother, my soul brother. We have a saying. We have a saying when we see somebody beautiful and we just want to be in their energy or just enjoy them or something, we always go, just give me a minute. Just give me a minute. Right? So I was breathing in and feeling all that love from the week and everything. And then my computer went, oh, this is too hot. Just give me a minute. Just give me a minute.
Okay, so everybody knows, at least by now, anybody that's on like following these calls knows that I love the analogies of regular life things to propel you forward into like awareness. And what you just said, just give me a minute in this, but your computer overheated and it was too much. That is exactly what happens in expansion.
Yes.
That is exactly what happens to all of us in expansion and awareness. And I've been talking a lot about clues. I'm sure we did on this call, blues clues.
Yeah, we did. Right? On an earlier, not on this call, but on an earlier call.
Right? Yeah. I talked about it in our panel discussion the other day too. They're like, yeah. All right, Loree. These things that happen that Paula and I bring up, you know, I always like to bring this back to people. These are clues for you that you've overheated your ability, your capacity within the current awareness that you have. And what I want to say to people is this is a clue to pick up your anchor that you're currently sitting in and move it. Because if you're overheating, like short-circuiting in love light with other people, you're anchored back in a vibration that no longer serves you, right? I mean, if you're like overheating in love, if you're short-circuiting in love, if you know that you're in this beautiful feeling that Paula is emitting, or I'm emitting today on this call, and it's too much for you and everything's shutting down, you know, pick up your anchor and move a little closer to it. Because short-circuiting in love and light, I don't know, right? Expanding in love and light, feeling your soul grow in love and light, that makes sense. Just, it's a clue, right? There's all these things that are these great clues of awareness that you get to go, yeah, they look really happy.
I think with my computer getting too hot and shutting down that energy, I think I need to go have a cold shower more often. Cold plunge. It's very cleansing.
Right. We were talking about the men in our lives. So yeah, I like the cold plunge. And honestly, I haven't done that in a few years either. And I was thinking about it. I just love the interconnectedness of it. I had started to talk about a bit, right? You were talking about that expression of awareness within the masculine in your life. And I was saying to my friend yesterday, I recently have been in conversation with men, so in that representation of the masculine, who are in the language of love.
Yeah.
So David, when we had him on this call like a couple of times, and then I met another man named David Montgomery this weekend.
Yeah.
He's
right? Amazing.
Amazing space of love language, love light. Like, the conversation that we had beyond the words that we were speaking was incredible.
Mihai is another one. He's the one who took me to the lake and the ocean, and it was just incredible.
Yeah, I've met him too, and it's that you're like, what is this? So as a woman, I know that I have intentionally over the years put myself around other women that are moving into this vibration that I can lean into. And now I'm very, very much finding myself moving in it with the men. In my past, there's been a few, like one of my original teachers, Bijan, was in that space. My friend Kevin was in that space. And then I took a departure for whatever, to go learn some things. And now, because you and I have been in these conversations of the balancing of the divine and recognizing the wounded, I find that it's starting to come together. I did a call the Impact. I did the Impact Festival a month or two ago. And, our contact Matthew Learning, his same, right? Tracy and Mike, who ran the Soulful Awakening Festival, which by the way, everybody, I'm going to post a link on my page and you can still access that festival. So you can still access until I believe it's Saturday, Paula's talk and my talk and Paula's ceremony, right? Paula's ceremonies. And then there's this really great platform where they've created where you can continue to access us for like a year, I think.
Yeah. I put the link in the comments there because it is, 20 practitioners all at once, like, well, not all at once speaking, but you can partake of them is incredible.
Yeah. And I highly recommend anybody that's going to tap into the festival to make sure to watch the panel conversation. Because it just like popped into this space, this accumulation of what we're talking about. And it was so beautiful because there's 5 different practitioners, all in a different modality, all in different life experiences, all saying to people, I see you. Right. I see you. I asked everybody, what it's like working with somebody and when they have those aha moments. And it was so beautiful because we often think that the people that we're going to work with are going to tell us we're not doing it right. And the truth is that all we see in other people is a beautiful reflection of ourselves. And we're so happy when somebody sees it in themselves, right? So I encourage people to, just do that because you have access to some different understandings more in this consciousness right now that we're talking. So I just wanted to talk a bit about that. You were talking about the masculine, and I consciously over the last month have been working with that, talking with people about my father, my husbands. I've been married twice. The men in my life, my friends, my grandfather, Sydney's constantly talking about my dad who's passed over. I don't even know. I don't really like that term anymore. Passed over. It's more like he's in a vibration I can't see.
I say transition because they're not in this particular realm right now of physical touch. Right? They're still there.
Yeah, they're still
somewhere.
There.
Right?
It's more like I just am not in the same vibration.
Yeah.
Anyways, I've been doing that work. And again, I love the use of the land. I love the use of different awarenesses to support this. And I was starting to say I had gone out to Kelowna a couple weeks ago. And oh, Paula, oh my gosh, the drive through the mountains. I was with our friend Nola, and, along the way I said, oh, can you feel that? Oh, something just changed. What were we talking about? What was going on? Because we just moved through this different physicality. And that was the experience the whole time we're flowing down this road that's very controlled, yet the essence of me adjusted and changed through each new mountain, through each new pass, through each new expansion, standing by the lakes. We passed this river and we pulled over to look at it, and it was this slow moving beauty. And I was like, oh my gosh, what is that? And I stood in the lake, and I stood on the rocks, and my feet kind of sunk in, right? Like you do on the sand of a beach.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, what is that? Like there's movement under here. And yet you're on solidness. It was so good. Just that use of the awareness of the interconnectedness of yourself and the earth. Yourself and the galactic cosmic space of you.
Mm-hmm.
We get to do that now, right? And everyone gets to do it. And you know what? It's not a far reach anymore. It's not a far reach. So many of us are in that space that is so easily accessed these days. And yeah, I often was thinking about our conversations about the canyons and the rivers, and what it means to be present to yourself while putting your feet on the earth. And I was drawn back to a conversation I had, interestingly, with a man who I knew like 2 decades ago. And he reached out to me earlier this year and just was like, there's some reason I need to be in conversation with you. And he's very connected to the earth in the work that he does. And it had been raining, and I think it was early spring, and I was feeling all like that. And he said, go put your bare feet on the wet grass.
Mm-hmm.
And I had this vision, and I'm having it now, of all of the sensory points that our physical being has to connect us to the greater awareness of our essence. Every point on our body is a connection point to the vibration around us. And it was so stunning. It was like all these electrical impulses coming up into my feet, into my being. And I don't know. I'm so happy to be in this space right now. And I'm starting to lose my words. And I always know with us when that happens that we've just popped into to the truest essence, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I'm just sitting over here, taking it in, experiencing, breathing, trying not to breathe too deeply in case I blow my computer again. But this has just been, today's talk has been just this beautiful journey of flowing through fear, realizing what a catalyst it is, flowing into the true balancing of our masculine and our feminine, agreeing that the woundedness, that it doesn't serve us anymore, right? Mm-hmm. And how do we flow through that? How do we flow into our true essence? That part of us that just kind of like, yeah, that's what I want, before we shut it down. And I love this journey that we're on, because the flow means movement. The flow means to connect. The flow means to be ourselves. So we're not shutting ourselves down anymore. We're not holding back anymore. And taking those experiences of ourselves and with others and everything, even the water on the grass that you put your feet on, right? Mm-hmm. And having that become a part of us and part of our journey is just a beautiful flow. So with that, I'm going to sit here and breathe. Not too hard, though.
Not too hard. Well, I think that's a lovely way to end. Let's do that little breath that we like to do with everybody, to allow them to experience what, I mean, they're already experiencing us, everybody that's here, and we always invite people to experience themselves through us, with us. All right. So I really love this part of breath. Breathe in. Know that this is the experience of receiving love. Hold it. This is what it is to hold love. And breathe out. This is what it is to share love. You hear Paula and I talk in these spaces of our journeys and our experiences, and I really want to just let everybody know that all you need to do to experience anything that you hear that we're in is breathe. Breathe in. Know you receive love in this beautiful way. Pause and feel what it is to hold the space that you are loved by every molecule and essence of the universe. Just hold that breath there for a moment. And as you breathe out, that is what it is to give love. You don't have to do anything, be anything, think anything, act any way to know that you are beautifully, divinely qualified to be you. Yeah.
Yeah.
So lovely.
And with that, we are going to leave you, and we will see you next Tuesday at 9:30 Mountain Time when we discuss who knows what. Because we certainly don't know.
Never know. Never ever know. All right.
Have a great day and week. Bye.